It is believed in Aqua that evil spirits exist, and they roam freely in the world. There's even a proverb spoken by the elders of Aqua. It goes, Gbadokwe anya, maka ndi mamuo. Whenever it was uttered, everyone in Aqua purified their homes and the children stayed indoors. It was also widely believed that the Queen of Aqua, a decade ago, was punished by the gods and cast into everlasting slumber. It was said that the queen had cut up her husband, the king, and then fed him to the royal dogs. It was an insult to the gods, who then cursed the queen. It was also believed, among many things, that the queen was the most beautiful woman ever to exist in the East. Her fair skin rivaled any other, and it was rumored that when she stepped into the sun, her body glittered. But no one talked about the other side of the queen's story, the dark side. It was also said that the queen was possessed by Ndi Muo, the evil spirits, and then she'd carried out the murder on her husband. But that was not all. The queen was also rumored to grant great wealth to any man who slept with her. That seemed a little far-fetched considering that she was in a coma. But one night, just after the town's yearly hunting festival, 2 Aqua men, Nduka and Cheta, set out to test the rumors. Nduka watched with disgust as his friend tapped the dead body that lay on the bed. They'd entered the wrong room again. He glared at his friend, doing his best not to raise his voice. They weren't supposed to be in the hospital by this time, and they were taking a risk. "Why are we doing this again?" Nduka asked his friend, Cheta. Cheta rolled his eyes and shook his head in derision. Unlike his friend Nduka, he was different. He sought out thrill and adventure. The last thing he needed was Nduka's complaints. "We are here to prove to everyone back at home that we are not weaklings. We're here to set ourselves apart." But Nduka was not on the same page with his enigmatic friend. In fact, he was regretting his choice to come with a crazy-eyed Cheta. Nduka wondered what he'd been thinking as they snuck past the maternity ward and began making their way to the east end of the hospital. The eerie noises made by air as it whistled through the windows and the shaky electricity that seemed to go off with each step they took made Nduka's skin crawl. "We should go back," Nduka said, grabbing the ends of his shorts. Cheta stopped in his tracks and turned to face his friend Nduka. "Don't tell me you're going to chicken out now." Nduka was visibly trembling. He turned to Cheta. "This queen possesses ancient powers, and she will kill us." Cheta paused and turned to Nduka. His eyes showed his impatience and his growing annoyance at Nduka's timidity. With 2 children and a wife to feed, Cheta could not afford to be afraid. He was tired of waking up each morning and hanging around at the local quarry struggling to get a job or help the other workers. He was tired of his wife's nagging as well, and he was convinced that sleeping with the queen would change his life forever. But Nduka did not read Cheta's body language and continued to talk while glancing around nervously. The hospital was awfully quiet. Nduka could hear himself breathe. "This queen killed her husband and cut him up, Cheta. What will she do to us?" Nduka wailed. "I swear if I die before my time, Cheta, the gods will punish your family for that. To Fiakwa." Nduka visibly shuddered as he thought about dying. Now he was beginning to regret going to the festival and drinking with all the other men. It was because he'd done exactly that. That was why he was trapped with Cheta on a suicide mission. "Cheta, let's go home. I know the gods will change our situation someday. Ise. Amen." Nduka said again, raising his head to the ceiling. The slap landed hard on Nduka's face and he staggered backwards, his ears ringing and his vision blurred. Cheta had slapped him. "Nwane, ke nike bunka, what is this?" Nduka started to protest, but the pain on his left cheek was almost blinding. "If you don't move forward, we will fight here and now," Cheta whispered as loudly as he could. This was no time for jokes, and he was irritated by Nduka's constant complaints. "If you want to remain in this Aqua as a poor man, that's your choice, but I will not let you stop me from becoming a rich man." They were standing outside the doors to the coma ward. Big red sign hung above the door like a warning, but it wasn't a warning. It was the directions to the Queen's room and the indication that they were in the right ward. "Let's turn back now while we still can. We'll tell the other men that we saw the Queen and we slept with her. I'll back up your story." Nduka was desperate now, but Cheta ignored him. The wind whistled through the windows as they stepped into the Queen's room. There were no light switches, but the walls shone a bright gold and white color that gave the Queen's face some light. Cheta turned to Nduka, grinning from ear to ear. "This is it." The door creaked open, revealing Queen Nema, lying motionless on a grand bed, her beauty undiminished by time. She was indeed as beautiful as they said she was. Cheta's breath caught in his throat. "There she is, Nduka, the most beautiful woman in the East." Nduka swallowed hard, his fear momentarily overshadowed by the Queen's ethereal beauty. She's real." "Yes," Cheta whispered, stepping closer, "and we're going to be rich and powerful." As they approached her bed, the room's temperature seemed to drop. Nduka shivered, glancing around nervously. "Do you feel that? It's like the room is getting colder." Cheta nodded, his excitement mingling with a growing sense of dread. "Just nerves, Nduka. Let's do this." Nduka watched, horrified, as Cheta began to undress, his fingers fumbling with the waistband of his trousers. The air grew colder with each passing second, a chill seeping into Nduka's bones. The dim light cast eerie shadows on the walls, dancing and shifting as if they were alive. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of their breathing and the rustling of clothes. "Cheta, this is madness," Nduka whispered, his voice trembling. We can't do this. We should leave now before it's too late." But Cheta was undeterred. He shrugged off his trousers and tossed them aside, standing in his underwear. His eyes gleamed with a mix of desperation and determination. "We've come this far, Nuka. We can't turn back now. Think of what this will mean for us, for our families." Nuka felt a surge of panic. He couldn't bring himself to follow Cheta's lead. His hands shook as he held onto his shorts, unwilling to remove them. "Cheta, please, let's just go. We'll find another way to make money." Cheta shook his head, his expression hardening. "You're a coward, Nduka. This is our chance to change our lives. If you won't do it, then I will." As Cheta took a step closer to the Queen's bed, the temperature in the room dropped even further. Nduka's breath came out in visible puffs, and his teeth began to chatter. The golden light on the walls flickered, casting grotesque shadows that seemed to mock their presence. Cheta reached out a trembling hand, his fingers inches away from the Queen's pristine skin. The air grew heavy as Nduka's heart pounded in his chest, and he took a step back, as if doing so would save him. "Cheta, stop!" Nduka pleaded, his voice cracking with fear. "Can't you feel it? Something's not right. This place, it's cursed." Cheta hesitated, his hand hovering over the Queen's body. He turned to Nduka, frustration and anger etched on his face. "This is our only chance, Nduka. If you're too scared to go through with it, then leave. But I'm not backing down." Nduka's mind raced. He glanced around, searching for any sign of escape. The dark shadows on the walls seemed to stretch and reach for him, and he tried not to scream out in horror. But Cheta was as stubborn as ever. With a deep breath, Nduka steeled himself. He couldn't abandon Cheta, not now. Summoning every ounce of courage he had left, he began to slowly remove his shorts. The fabric felt heavy in his hands, like he was committing a grave mistake. As Nduka joined Cheta by the queen's bedside, the room's atmosphere grew even more oppressive. The walls suddenly appeared darker than they were, casting a sickly pallor over the queen's face. Her beauty, once mesmerizing, now seemed scary. Cheta took another step closer, his breath shallow and rapid. He reached out again, his hand trembling as it hovered over the queen's body. The cold air seemed to pulse around them, a malevolent force waiting to strike. Nduka's eyes darted to the queen's face. For a moment, he thought he saw her eyelids flutter, but it must have been a trick of the light. The room was playing tricks on his mind, amplifying his fear. As Cheta's hand finally made contact with the queen's skin, a sudden, piercing scream echoed through the room. Nduka's blood ran cold and he stumbled back, nearly falling to the ground. The scream seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The sounds bounced off the walls. Cheta froze, his eyes wide with shock. He glanced around, trying to locate the source of the scream, but there was no one else in the room. The queen lay motionless, her eyes still closed, her face serene. What? What was that? Nduka stammered, his voice barely audible over the pounding of his heart. Cheta shook his head, his face pale. I don't know. Nwa, hurry. Cheta's arms were in the air, gesturing and beckoning to Nduka to hasten up. The two men stood there paralyzed by fear as the room grew colder still. The shadows on the walls seemed to move closer, closing in around them. The air was heavy with the sense of danger, as if those evil spirits the elders warned the Aqua about were watching them. We are finished! Nduka yelled in anguish. His life was flashing before his eyes. Cheta staggered back, not believing his eyes. As they stood there trembling with fear, the queen's eyelids fluttered again, just for a moment. The room seemed to hold its breath, the oppressive silence stretching on. But she did not wake. Nduka swallowed hard, his mouth dry with fear. Cheta, we need to leave. Now. Before Cheta could respond, a soft, haunting voice filled the room. Why have you come here? The friends froze, eyes wide with terror. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Queen Neoma's eyes opened, glowing with an otherworldly light. Nduka's voice shook as he stammered. We didn't mean any harm, Your Majesty. We just wanted to see you. The queen's gaze pierced through them and she sat up slowly. You seek power and wealth, do you not? You came here to rape me, just like my husband, the king, tried to do to me. Nduka felt hot liquid flow down his shorts when the queen focused her icy gaze on him. Her eyes were black, so dark that Nduka felt like he was staring into her soul. Cheta found his voice, though it was laced with fear. Yes, Your Majesty, we've heard the stories, and we wanted to prove ourselves. Queen Neoma's lips curled into a chilling smile. Foolish boys, the power you seek comes at a price. I'll do to you the same thing I did to the king. No one disrespects me. Her voice felt like ice scraping the skin. With a wave of her hand, the room filled with an eerie, greenish light. Nduka and Cheta felt their bodies seize up, unable to move. The queen's voice echoed in their minds. For your greed and arrogance, you shall be cursed to serve me for eternity. As she spoke, Nduka's skin began to crawl, his bones shifting painfully. He screamed as his body twisted and morphed, transforming into a shape-shifting Ijiji, a housefly. Cheta's eyes widened in horror as he watched his friend buzzed away and continued to watch as Nduka, now a fly, was squished to death by the queen. Cheta tried to scream, but no words came out. Hot, liquid fear trickled down his legs. Panic gripped him as his own body began to change. His skin bubbled and boiled, sending sharp pain through him. He screamed, but his voice was lost in the eerie room. His bones cracked and twisted painfully. His fingers grew into long, sharp claws. His spine bent unnaturally and dark fur sprouted all over his body. His face stretched into a snout filled with sharp teeth, and his eyes turned into glowing, yellow orbs. Cheta roared in agony as his ears grew into pointed bat-like shapes. His legs bent backward, turning into beast-like hooves. A long spiked tail thrashed behind him. His body was covered in dark matted fur, with raw pulsing patches of greenish skin. Queen Neoma's voice cut through the chaos. "Your greed has sealed your fate. Now you will serve me forever, bound by the very desires that brought you here." Cheta, now a monstrous Nkisi, looked around with despair and horror. His mind struggled to understand his new form, but it was too late. The queen's power had taken hold, turning him into a beast. The queen returned to her slumber, like she'd never been disturbed. And to this day, Cheta and Anduka remain as a lesson to all the people of Aqua.
If you like this story, don't forget to show some love by hitting the like and subscribe button until next time.